The Acolyte episode 5 has come out. While the last one was called Day, this one is called Night. It's the most entertaining episode so far, but does that mean it's good? Well, maybe not. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is fellow Acolyte survivor, Mr. VashSky. Vash, did you enjoy last night's episode?
Well, I will say it was better than the last 4 episodes. It wasn't quite as much of a slog to get through, but man, my brain hurts after watching that episode. It's just so painful. Why does it have to be so terrible, Jonas?
Yeah. Somebody even told me that if I dislike this one, sorry, they were speaking in the generalities, that anyone who doesn't like this episode is a grifter. And I while we are putting up a review and we are covering the Acolyte, I don't think that that's a fair assessment. Any piece of art can be disliked by anyone for any number of reasons, but I have to say there's a lot here that hopefully we can explain some of the opinions that we have on this show. So I want to start with the positive. This one is action-packed. There's a lot that goes on from an action standpoint. It's also a shorter episode than most. It's only 34 minutes long. And of course, probably about 5 to 6 minutes of that is credits, opening sequences, and things like that. But the action, there was a lot of action in this one. Vash, would you agree that this one is pretty much wall-to-wall lightsaber fights?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would absolutely agree that it's wall-to-wall action right there. And thankfully, that's been the worst part about the show, is that the action is so spread out. But when it comes, it does deliver, at least on the premise of action itself. When you look at the choreography, when you look at some certain things that are happening, even the shots, the effects work, it's all a little bit lacking. Some of this action was obfuscated by trees from Asha's perspective. Others were happening so fast that you really didn't connect or couldn't tell what was going on. I know when watching it, it was like, wait a minute, is he using his wrists to block the lightsaber slashes and so forth? And then they were deactivating. Turns out that that's what it was, but I think we're getting into it.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a new word that we're all going to have to learn if we want to be Star Wars fans, and apparently that word is cortosis, some kind of material that will short out a lightsaber briefly whenever it touches a lightsaber blade. So originally I thought he was chopping off the top of lightsaber hilts and then they were reactivating. It was very strange. I can get it if you have something like this and someone who goes, how is he doing this? Or, actually that would be pretty good dialogue to throw in there to say, I don't understand, or to have a Jedi question what's going on. But instead we have some shaky motions, like when you turn a flashlight upside down and you bang on the bottom, like it's a ketchup bottle, to try to get it to work. That's kind of where we are with lightsabers right now. Not only are they kind of ineffective based off of Ahsoka and some other moments here, now they are essentially like faulty flashlights that if someone has this one material, and he seems to headbutt with that helmet. I don't know if it's the van brace or if it's the helmet that has this on it. You would think that he would be fine to not have to headbutt with it, or to just leave himself open to an attack, and every time they attack his helmet, that it would just deactivate the lightsabers. Doesn't quite work for me. Also, there's supposed to be a lightsaber battle going on somewhere nearby when she wakes up from, I'm assuming, the blast from the end of the last episode. You can clearly hear that there's a lightsaber battle going on. It is the most interesting thing going on. There's not a lot of like, oh, this is a dream, like foggy shots or anything like that. And I'm not saying you have to put foggy shots in there. This is one tool that they could use to communicate that she's not fully aware of what's going on. There's no like particles in the air to indicate that there's a lot going on or anything. It's just she wakes up in a forest and she's looking for her droid, and then she sees all the Jedi. And I'm talking like 5 or 6, maybe. It's hard to tell, again, because it's so, I don't want to say poorly shot. The shot is intended to be obscured. Still not that well shot, but whatever. I don't want to say the action is hard to follow, but the rhythm and rhyme of the action is hard to follow. Somebody gets impaled on a lightsaber, and the Sith, who I'm now hearing, even though he said you can call me a Sith, or you would call me a Sith, pulls somebody onto the lightsaber that's already impaling someone off. It seems like a lot of stuff that's like, oh, it would be cool if kind of things.
I absolutely agree with that assessment right there. It's a lot of stuff that would be cool if handled in better hands. You mentioned cortosis, right? And cortosis, at least my experience with it, came from Today Outcast, interestingly enough, but as part of the Dark Forces franchise. That was my first experience with it as part of like the Shadow Troopers. I knew a little bit about that material. Obviously, Lorne, immediately following the show, provided a little bit more insight. And now we know that it's kind of a material that's difficult to work with, and it can actually break down like a powder form, which is apparently what that red dust was at the conclusion of the last episode. You see it on the floor in the beginning of this episode. Here's the problem, though. This is not at all set up. And so when you look at like his helmet, it has like a red hue to it, and some of his armbands have that red hue as well, but it's very difficult to see. And like I said, not set up previously. If it had been set up in such a way where it was like, oh, okay, well, this guy, we know a little bit about, he uses this kind of material called cortosis. It has the ability to shoot out lightsabers and so forth. Then maybe, you know, when we actually see those things actually transpire or happen, then it hits different. Like for example, she wakes up and there's this like long drawn out shot of her waking up, and she's surrounded by that cortosis powder. And it's supposed to be like this dramatic effect. It's supposed to be this dramatic reveal. And it's weird because we don't know what this powder is. So how could it be dramatic at all?
See, this is where I'm going to disagree with you. I didn't know that it was the powder. I thought it was the helmet itself, or maybe the van brace. So this is,
I think it's all.
And it's fine if you have like one item like this that doesn't quite make sense in the context. They could reveal what it is in the next episode. It would be helpful if they approach this, and you know, there are little things. Like I give you a good example. In Batman Begins, when they have the microwave emitter going towards the Wayne Tower, and there are things exploding along the way. You could leave it to the audience to try to figure out why things are exploding on the way. Instead, they inserted scenes of two guys in a control room explaining what's going on. They're freaking out about what's going on. These guys are kind of new. They can also be reaction shots. And, oh, if this hits Wayne Tower, it's going to blow up the whole city or something ridiculous like that. But it's still, it doesn't completely take you out of it, even though you're, quote unquote, being introduced to a new character. You have someone explaining that at least things are not functioning how they're supposed to be functioning, and explaining it to the audience as to what the stakes are in this moment. So then you can return to Batman and Ra's al Ghul fighting on a train, and the stakes are established here.
I just realized you could have had her little droid, right? Analyze it real fast and maybe pop up on a screen that this shorts out lightsabers or has the ability to interact with lightsabers in a weird way. And then she realizes it. And then you see that dramatic shot. And then now we know, okay, he has access to this technology, and he has access to this material in great supply in order to powderize it and all that.
There's also that, you know, there's like 6 Jedi, and most of them die or are injured, and Yord is taken out of the fight because he's got to take Asha out of the fight. But then Jeki, who I think is a Padawan, it's not really 100% set up if she's a Padawan or a Jedi Knight. She fights Kimir. By the way, it's established at this point that Kimir is the Sith, or the guy who's looking for an acolyte, or I don't know. They also use the word acolyte again, like it's the coolest word. He has this cool voice effect before his helmet gets busted off by Jeki. The guy who had no reason to be on the planet, guess why he's there? So that they can have him in this episode. There's so many things in this show that it's like, why did they do that weird thing? Why do they both have the same haircut? Why did they do this? Oh, so that there's a moment in this episode when it can pay off. It doesn't make sense. It's just very convenient for the plot. Jeki goes toe-to-toe against this guy for an extended period of time. Also, guy takes down Yord pretty easily. What's his name? Lee Jung-jae's character, Soul. You know, there's a little bit of dialogue about how he's actually evil. Whoever this Kimir guy is, he apparently killed Kelnaka while he was sitting in a chair and sliced him in the chest. The only way that he could have known that Asha was not going to, May was not going to kill him was for May to directly tell him. Also, she's going towards the same place. So how did he get there before her and then leave? May decides to not engage in the fight until later on. There's just so many things that it doesn't quite make sense why anybody is doing what they're doing. There's a lot of hammy dialogue here. Whenever Kimir actually starts talking, you can tell that this character, it's a little bit more fun. I will say this: when Kimir starts talking, he actually says things that are a little hammy, a little bit more like scenery chewing kind of villain stuff. It doesn't quite make sense why he says he can't take off his helmet because then the Jedi will read his thoughts. There's nothing in the Star Wars lore that says that the Jedi know that his helmet would prevent him from reading thoughts. There's nothing in the Star Wars lore that says that Jedi read thoughts in that way. So there's just so many things that even when they are explaining themselves, it just raises another question, and not another mystery, just another question of, more like a confused rather than an explanation of what's going on. Okay, we were supposed to be talking about the positive things here, but I'm going to say Kimir being openly villainous, that's a plus for the show.
And I thought his performance as a villain, scenery chewing, is a little bit theater kid. Yeah, a little bit. But I thought he was all right. He was decent, at least for this show. I mean, there's not a lot of great performances to go around. So anybody who's even half decent is definitely a plus for the show for sure. But no, there are definitely a bunch of conveniences. Like, for example, Soul. He just, after that whole battle is concluded and everybody around him is basically dead, and he takes off with now May undercover as her sister, he just, goes back to the ship, and literally it's a smash cut. He just walks back to the ship.
Leaves all the dead bodies of all of these. Well,
remember, the entire fourth episode is walking to that location. And then in the very tail end of this one, he's just back at the ship. We're fine. No mile-long jaunt like we endured the first time, and apparently nothing was spoken between Asha and, May and Soul that entire time. That's pretty convenient right there.
See what
left the whole bodies right there, like you said. Left all the bodies, didn't round them up, didn't, send them on via flame like they traditionally do. Very bizarre.
Also, I'm going to point out that the reason that he didn't check all the bodies is because if he had checked all the bodies, he would have discovered that May gave herself a haircut. And I didn't even notice that their hair was any different on any level until this moment, because those bangs are so distracting. And she gives herself a haircut in either the most cool or the most stupid. This is the thing. We're in that realm of this is either the most stupid or the most cool, and cool stupid can be very entertaining. And this is very much where this show is right now for me. Right now, I'm just going to spoil my rating now. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 because I'm actually being entertained by this show now, not because I want to troll them or whatever. This is actually entertaining to me. If they do episodes of this caliber of dialogue and this level of action to the end, if everybody is shouting their feelings in nonsensical ways, it's going to be uproarious and it'll be a laugh factory, which I'm going to say, if that is the case, then the first half is nonsense to me because there's nothing really funny or interesting about the first half of the show. It's just nonsense as far as I'm concerned. If the last half of the show is somebody being openly villainous and being dramatic, like he's literally monologuing to himself in moments of this, talking about what funny creatures that we are. And I don't get it. And at this point, I'm amused by it. So, Vash, is there anything else that you want to bring up before you give your rating?
I think the dialogue is very, very poor. The story, the plot contrivances, it's just very, very distracting. People are nonsensical. Think about the journey emotionally that May has made over the last 5 episodes. She's bad, she's good, she's on a vendetta, she's not. I think she is all over the shop. Can't figure her out at all. Asha is a little bit one note, but then I guess things happen. I guess she's going to be an acolyte now. I have no idea what is going on. It's very hard to follow. Also, too, spent a lot of time on Yord and Checky, and now they're gone. So I guess that's their story. Oh, also, too, the stabby. We're not slashing with lightsabers like we should be. That is so bizarre.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I would say that that's probably the least effective way to harm somebody with a lightsaber.
Right.
Of course, they could be fine. Okay, so lightsabers, we're not sure that they kill people, but Kimir does one of those Worf-style head turn things to try to kill Yord. I think he does kill Yord, but I'm not confident in the way that Star Wars works anymore. Okay, I will address a couple of things here. First of all, Kimir has Jackie dead to rights. and he decides to just do a Batman on the top of Commissioner Gordon's, I'm going to disappear now, only to kill her in a different fight where she almost has the upper hand later. There's so much here that it just seems like they said, well, what would be the cool thing that happened in this moment, as opposed to what makes any sense. And the revelation that it's Khmer is not helpful to the series in any way. He's kind of a goofball. In previous episodes, she got the upper hand on him by hanging him upside down. And even the last episode, there's some line in here about the Jedi say I can't exist. I feel like that's probably the author trying to insert some kind of dialogue about the real world and how she feels about the real world. I don't know. I don't feel like they really earned this episode. If this was the start of the show, I would have a lot more hope for the rest of the show. There's just so much here that it doesn't all tie together. It doesn't flow for me. And you really have to have an entire episode of everybody banging lightsabers together to even get up to that 7 out of 10 for me. Oh, we forgot. Asha saves the day. Sorry, May? No, it's Asha. Yeah, saves the day by ripping the head off of her droid, turning on the flashlight function, and attaching it to the back of Khmer so that all those weird bugs from the previous episode would all be attracted to him and make him float up into the sky. It only buys them a little bit more time, but there's a "I love you, Pip" right before she does that there. So he could be fine, though. Maybe they'll reattach it. She's still on the planet. Asha has gone off with Lee Jung-jae's character, and the weird sniffer guy from the last episode is now sniffing her out on the ship. So, I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope that this is going to make more sense. And in some way, I think that means that we could be in for an entertaining episode 6. Vash, do you have a numerical score for this?
Yes, it's probably going to be 4.5, just with everything combined right there. For as action-packed as it is, it's hard to see. For as cool as lightsabers are, the choreography is bad. For as maybe how provocative or interesting the story could be, it's let down by the poor writing, plot contrivances, and all of that. Direction's very weird. It's just not a great show. It's just sorry to say that is absolutely for sure. Now, here's the thing, Jonas. Leslye Headland apparently has said that this is her favorite episode. So are we to believe that it just goes downhill from here? I guess we'll see.
It might. I hope not, because I'm going to say, if the show can't be good, at least it can be entertaining. And there is something to be said. I love a good bad show. This is, I'm going to say it, a bad show. It's an expensive bad show, too. I don't know if anyone else will be tuning in for the same reasons that I will be, but I'm actually looking forward to next week. If we get more of this, I will be entertained to the end of the series. But that being said, we want to throw this to our commenters. Those two scores average out to 5.75, and producer's imperative, I'm going to round that up to a 6 out of 10. That's being very generous, I think. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did you watch this? Am I just insane for rating this as high as I did? Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.